Hi there, welcome to Create with Copper. Today I want to show you how to make this elegant wire woven ring. To make this, the materials you need are 1.25mm diameter copper wire, 0.4mm diameter copper wire, and a small flat or puffy bead. Mine's a 6x4mm garnet. Now I should warn you, this project does involve soldering. I know some people don't like soldering very much and are a bit nervous about it, but this project's a good one to start with because you will be covering over the solder joint with wire weaving afterwards. So for the soldering, the tools you need are your solder, flux, a jeweller's torch, soldering block, tweezers, a quenching bowl and your pickle. And the other tools you need are a rawhide mallet, a ring mandrel, a permanent pen, your wire cutters, flat nose pliers, a flat file, your polishing tools and an awl. Now we're going to start by making the closed rings for the frame, and I know the eventual weaving will reduce the ring by about 3 sizes, so I'm going to start by taking the 1.25mm wire and wrapping it around size S on my ring mandrel. Once I've got 2 complete rings around there, you can just lightly hammer the end to make sure that that's also around in the circle. And then holding the wire tight, I want to mark on the bottom 2 wires where they cross. I'm then going to use my flush cutters to cut on those marks and turn the cutters round to make sure that the flush side is both ends of that ring. I'll then put the wire back on the ring mandrel and mark and cut the second ring in the same way. Now I need those wire ends to fit together as flush as possible, so I'm gently going to file all of them just to take away any little burrs. And then I'll ease the ends together to make a continuous loop. And that will be ready to solder. Now I'm using copper solder here. I'm just going to cut a couple of pieces. I found that this is quite good, but you could use silver solder if you can't get hold of the copper. And I'm using borax cone for my flux, so I just need to grind a bit of it into my dish with a little bit of water. And then I can pop in my solder pieces just to make sure that they're fluxed. I'm then going to paint that flux onto the joins on my 2 rings, and then carefully place those little bits of solder on the inside of the rings and make sure that the solder is touching the ring. I then want to take my torch and start by heating the whole ring. Just go around and make sure the whole thing's heated up. And then I can concentrate on that solder point. Until I see the solder flow. I'll then do the same for the second ring. And once they're both soldered, I can switch the torch off and take my tongs and pop them in my quenching bowl. I'll then pickle them to clean them up. Once your rings come out of the pickle, you can shine them up again using your wire wool or a wire brush. And if you've got excess solder that's causing a bit of a bump on your wire ring, you can file that off. And I've found the best thing to use is the little ceramic stone grinder bits that you can use with your rotary tool. You just need to go carefully, make sure you keep moving the bit over your piece so you don't end up with a ridge anywhere. And just carefully file or grind it down until you've got a smooth ring. And if you've got excess solder that's just colouring your metal but there isn't a ridge, I found the best way of cleaning that up is with the silicone rubber bits. And again, you just need to move it over the area until you see the copper colour coming back through. Now we just need to check that those two rings are the same size. So we can pop them back on the ring mandrel. And if one is slightly smaller than the other, just tap it with the rawhide mallet just to stretch it a little bit. And then we have two rings the same size to start weaving with. Now for this ring, I want my bead to be held between the two wires, so they will be splaying out a bit at the top of the ring, but I want those wires to be together for over half of the ring's circumference. So just to help with that, I'm going to temporarily bind the two rings together, and I'm just using a bit of scrap wire. I'm then going to take my flat nose pliers and just gently bend the top of those rings outwards. I don't want a severe kink in those wires, so I'm just going very carefully with this. I just want to make each of those bends very gentle and very even, just so I've got some space to put the bead in at the top of the ring. I'm then taking 1.5 meters of the 0.4 diameter wire, and I'm going to thread on my bead to about 1/2 meter into that wire. I then want to place the bead onto my ring frame. And I'm going to wrap the 0.4 3 times around the frame wire. And then to hold the bead, I'll do the same the other side, wrapping the 0.4 3 times around the frame. I then want to take the 0.4 weaving wire under both rings of the frame and under the bead, and this will stop it spinning around. And then over the other side, next to where the first wraps are, I'm just going to wrap 4 times around the frame. And then I'll repeat that for the end of the weaving wire on the other side of the bead. And then I want to take the wire down between the two frame wires and across to the other side of the frame, and then wrap that side 3 times. And then if I just show you the inside of the ring, you can see those first 2 wraps across are holding the bead in place. Now I'm going to continue weaving by wrapping 3 times around the lower frame wire, and then taking the weaving wire down between the 2 frame wires up to the top frame wire, and then wrapping it 3 times around that wire, and then take it down between the 2 frame wires over to the bottom wire and wrap 3 times around that wire. I'll continue that weave down both sides of the ring up to the point where the 2 frame wires meet. Once I've finished the weave on both sides of the open part of the ring, I'm going to change the weave around the back. But first I'll take off that temporary wire. Now I'm going to wrap the back of the ring with the longest of my remaining weaving wires. And the last weave finished on the top wire. So I'm going to start this weave by wrapping the bottom wire twice. I'm then going to take my weaving wire over both up to the top and wrap both wires twice. I then want to take my weaving wire up between the two frame wires and wrap the top wire twice. And I'm then going to go under the two frame wires and wrap the two frame wires twice. And I'm going to continue this pattern right the way around the back. So you've got 2 wraps on the bottom wire, 2 wraps on both wires, 2 wraps on the top wire, 2 wraps on both wires, all the way along. And as you get towards the end, the awl might be useful just to make enough space to be able to put the wire through. And if you're running out of wire, as I am, your flat nose pliers will also be useful in guiding it into place. And once you've finished weaving, you can just cut the ends of the wire off. Just cut them as flush as possible and make sure they're not catching on the skin. You could then patina the piece with liver of sulphur, but I think I'll leave this as a copper colour. And I'll just check the finished size on the ring mandrel, and it is now a size P. I hope you enjoyed that. If so, please press the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and head over to my website for more hints, tips and projects. See you soon.